Can the bearing be repaired after it has become like this bear? In Pakistan, where supplies are scarce, that is certain, because all it takes is the intervention of an ancient priest. The damaged bearing can definitely be restored to normal use. The old watch was also damaged because of Axis City. The local area had not found suitable parts, so he traveled 2.5 kilometers to the ancient repair shop of the Glass's uncle in Baishawa. It can be seen that only the inner ring was broken and the outer ring was damaged. The situation is even more serious because this is a minor problem for Mr. Glasses. Before repairing it, Mr. Glasses needs to use steel paper to mark the Axis City. After 2.5 minutes of hard work, the bearing can be broken down into parts. To repair the broken inner ring of the bearing, you need to first remove the balls on the cage. With skillful operation, the cage can be quickly removed. The rigorous Glasses uncle will first use the diesel bearing to clean it carefully. It will be easier to observe the damaged position during maintenance. After cleaning all the positions, the ruler of the outer ring of the bearing will be prevented during maintenance. The uncle of the current deviation mirror will use the caliper to carefully measure the cutting position on one side. The size will become smaller. First, use the card to compensate for the outer side, and then use the clamp to limit the position. This time they need to use electric welding to weld to break the location. First, use an angle grinder to cut out the crack, and then use electric welding to repair the welding. This process is particularly important because the outer ring of the shaft is made of high-strength steel, which requires very high welding skills from the master. When welding, Uncle Jing not only needs to cut the strips, but also needs to clean the inner coating of the outer ring after each welding layer, and then use it to move the head and face, and the welding is completed very quickly. The damaged inner ring of the shaft city can be repaired. First, weld it carefully and position it at a position where the gap is relatively close. An angle grinder will be used to cut out a breakout sample. During welding, the firmness of the welding joint can be improved. The mirror uncle will then perform skilled operations. The outer ring has been processed very quickly. After that, the uneven welding surface of the lathe can be used for cutting. The master of the outer ring of Axis City first uses the excess position on the surface of the turning tool to cut, and then uses the tong knife to strictly cut the uneven surface. For flat locations, you need to use a grinding head to ensure that the interior is smooth enough. It needs to be polished with sandpaper and tested with balls to ensure that there is no problem with the smoothness of the shaft. The broken outer ring of the shaft has been processed very quickly through a concentrated operation, and the inner ring of the shaft can be machined. Here is the master. It is necessary to use a turning tool to perform careful cutting. The uncle can first use the feeling to gradually cut the welding position flat, and then use the grinding head to perform fine grinding to avoid problems with the internal smoothness. The service life of the subsequent shaft is, if the raceway of the inner ring is uneven, excessive wear will occur. Pockets will appear inside the shaft soon after the shaft is repaired. Uncle Glasses progressed the entire grinding process very rigorously and removed the broken shaft. After the inner ring and outer ring are processed, the internal balls are installed in place. You need to use a small hammer to remove the anchors on the 4-type cage, and then use a saw to limit the inner ring. The balls can be easily removed, installed in place. The bearing can rotate smoothly internally. All you need to do is arrange the gaps between the balls. Install the bearing cage that is divided into 2 halves into place. Use a small hammer to hit the cage at 4 times and use anchors to fix the cage. The damage will be very serious. The serious bearing has finally been repaired. What do you think of Mr. Glasses' repairing skills? If it is 10 points, how many points would you give it?